Hello, hello, hello. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Please, please unmute yourselves, or actually you don't have to unmute yourselves. You can just put yourselves on camera. Don't be shy. And please also put your name in chat so that I know that you're here. And you're gonna see in a second that I'm not in the classroom, so I'm hoping that everybody got the message loud and clear that you don't need to come to class on Mondays. Okay, great. Put your names here. Okay, so it's about 1 minute until class starts, so I'm going to just be patient. Okay, it is 9:35, so it's officially class time, and we're going to get started. So, if you were in class on Friday, you probably got your time to do the fast right, and your day more than a time. So what I'd like you to do is make sure you know your day. If you do not know your day or you don't have a day, then just wait till you're in person with me. So just let me know on Wednesday or Friday what day you're gonna go. And it's really helpful if you can email me your question beforehand like Mia did. So Mia was rocket fast and she got me your question. So this is what you'll be writing on today. Is there a specific dog breed that you believe is born mean, aggressive, or does a dog's behavior depend on how it is raised? So that's an interesting question. Maybe Mia tuned into when I said I like all dogs. There's no dog I don't like. I was looking around to see if I could show you a picture of my dog. I'll do that later. So basically, there is a dog that a lot of people think is aggressive. Well, and it's during this particular moment. Does anybody know what kind of dog is often considered aggressive? Don't be shy. So when I was growing up, it was a different dog. Growing up, it was the Rottweiler was considered mean. And then before that, there were Dobermans that were thought of as super mean. And before that, there was German Shepherds that were considered the vicious dog. So what today is the vicious dog? Who's the vicious dog in 2020? I'm going to ask somebody specifically. Partially, I ask you specifically, it's not to call you out, it's to try to get to know who you are. So Naya, I see you are here. Naya, can you unmute yourself and can you name a dog that you think of as vicious?
I thought it was the Rottweiler too.
Okay, you think of Rottweilers as a vicious dog. Yeah, I mean, some of those dogs that I was saying definitely have stayed in the imagination as those are vicious dogs, but that's not what I was expecting. But that's a fine answer. That would be Bronson. What are you thinking?
Pit bulls.
Yeah, that's the animal I had on my mind, the breed that is thought to be vicious, and there's a certain element about them that people repeat to sort of justify this viciousness. Do you know what that is? Does anyone know what the reputation the pit bull has as being able to do something? How about Samantha? Do you know what the reputation of the pit bull as having a special physical skill, what it is?
They're strong. Or
That they're strong?
bite, I guess.
That they bite, yeah. So tied in with that, there's this idea that somehow pit bulls can lock their jaws. Has anybody ever heard that? The pit bull can lock its jaw. Okay, so I'm not saying it's true. I'm just trying to give you some examples of breeds that people think are vicious. So go ahead and write on that for about 5 minutes. And while you're doing that, I'm going to find pictures of my dogs.
You move your oil, ma'am.
Yeah. Is somebody's audio on? So go ahead and mute yourselves.
Yeah.
And don't forget to put your name in the chat so I can know who's present. Okay, so for the people who just came in, I'm going to have to sort of develop a system for you to be on time. So when I said timeliness doesn't matter in class, I guess I kind of meant timeliness in person. I did not mean timeliness to Zoom. So if you just came in, the fast write is here, number 3. And if you don't know your day for a fast write in person on Wednesday or Friday, please let me know and we'll sign you up. All right, so why don't you write for a couple more minutes. You can try to go back and see if you have a main idea. We're going to talk about theses today, also known as theses. So see if you're done writing, see if you have a main idea, or are you all over the place in your writing? And it's okay in a fast write to be all over the place. Let me make sure there's nobody else waiting to be admitted into class. Oop. Okay, so if you didn't have enough time to write the fast write, then you should definitely note it. And there it is. And you should do it on your own time. So in the meantime, in order to get to know you guys, I'm going to ask somebody to read what they wrote about specific dog breeds. And I'm just going to look at the list of who's here. So let's see. Dayton, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say about dogs?
In my opinion, pit bulls is more aggressive to me because, like, but sometimes you don't know how they like. It depends on how they're raised. Like train wise, they can be trained to be good, and some can train to be dangerous dogs.
Okay. Do you guys feel like Dayton answered the question? So the question, is there a specific dog breed that you believe is born mean and aggressive, or does a dog's behavior depend on how it is raised? So I'm just going to call on somebody else who's here. For example, Brianna Benoit. Did Dayton answer the question?
I mean, yeah, just not all the way completely. He said he believes that pit bulls are more aggressive, but well, yeah, never mind, he did.
Okay, so he said he first says pit bulls are more aggressive, but then what does he say?
Yeah, but then he said it depends on how it's trained. So that's basically contradicting his first answer. So
not to like pull, I'm not trying to harass Dayton, but like that wasn't clear, and this is fine if you're not clear in your fast writes, because we figure out what we think through writing in this class. Okay, so Yes, person who's raising their hands with glasses on. Can you unmute yourself? I don't see your names, which is really a problem. So let's see. It was Ebony.
I think what Dane was trying to say.
Ebony, you're really quiet. Is your speaker on? Yeah. So can you like put it in front of your mouth?
I think what Dayton was trying to say was, although pit bulls are seen or perceived as mean and aggressive, and that they're like given a bad rep, if you was to actually take the time and train them and love on them and like kind of change that mindset, it would be different.
Okay, so Ebony, you were super quiet. I don't know why. Could the rest of you, I heard what you said though. Did the rest of you hear her? Yeah, huh, interesting that it's, for me it was very, so you are sort of extrapolating, you're taking out of what Dayton said and you're explaining it a little bit more that they have a bad rap. And that's a very interesting expression to use. One of the reasons I like it, it sort of stuck with me when you said bad rap, is that there is an organization that is called, let's see, Bad Rap Pit Bull Rescue. So there's a whole organization that is called Bad Rap. It's in California. And yeah, pit bulls have a bad rap. The breed has a bad rap that they are aggressive. And so in the end, you're saying that Dayton sort of says that it really is the training, right? Isn't that kind of what you're saying? Yeah, okay. Dayton, is that really what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I just didn't know how to say it.
Yeah, right. But that's why we, and somebody understood you. So don't, just remember guys, like I'm your audience that gives you a grade. So you want to make me understand, but I'm not your best audience because oftentimes you understand each other better than I understand you. Okay, so does anybody have a conflicting story about dogs that is not, pit bulls have a bad rap, it really matters how they're trained? Does anybody have a totally different take on that? Nope. All right, I'm gonna ask Mia what her thoughts are since she brought the question in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it matters what type of breed the dog is. I think that it matters on the people and the dog's home life. It could be a pit bull, it could be a chihuahua, it could be a lab, it could be anything. It doesn't matter what the dog is. It depends on its home life and the treatment it's getting at home, because that'll represent its behavior.
Yep, that's what I understand about dogs. Does anyone have a different take on that? And no one wants to argue, wait, certain dogs really do have a more aggressive streak based on their breed. And what is a breed anyway? Like, so my dogs personally tend to be mutts. They're mixed up, they're mixed breeds. And some people even argue that pit bulls at this point, there's no such thing. They have boxy heads, short hair, a certain kind of paw, but there's not an official thing. Like, I'm gonna show you one of my dogs, and you're gonna say, well, he's sleeping. Can you see the picture that's just up there? So he's really old. He is often, everyone says, that's a pit bull. And I'm like, well, I think what he really is a Dalmatian boxer, but sure, why not? He's a pit bull. And he was an aggressive dog. I've had to really work with him. Now he's really old and he doesn't do anything but sleep on his pillow all day. That's my other dog. I get my dogs used from the used dog store. In other words, adults, and they come with baggage. This little guy who looks so sweet and innocent in his little bed, that's this morning, my husband sent a picture because he looks cute. He has aggression problems. So I've had two dogs that are aggressive. Neither one are a specific breed. I don't know what their backstories are because they came to me grown up. And so I'm very much of the opinion that it's not about the breed, it's whatever happened to the dog. Okay, So let's just look quickly at who's coming next. So that would be Brianna. Brianna, raise your hand so I can just know who you are. Okay, so if you could email it to me before Wednesday morning, that'd be great. Okay. All right, moving on from the fast rates. And why do we do them? Not only to look at whether we're being clear and whether we're making sense, we're also doing fast rates to figure out what is interesting to you, what is not interesting to other people, what is interesting to you, and what is interesting to other people. So sometime in this semester, somebody will bring in a topic and the rest of you are going to be like, I don't know, I have nothing to say. And so then you sort of get a feel for your audience. So your audience is one another, and you should be writing things that are interesting to your audience. Okay, so moving on to the personal narrative, which I said today we're going to try to nail down some topics, what you're going to write about. I asked you to read a piece of, I'm just going to check really quick if anybody else needs to be let in. Looks good. Okay. So I asked you to read this piece of writing that's a personal narrative by a guy named Henry Rollins. He was a musician, but now he's more of a writer. So it's called Iron in the Soul. If you didn't read it, you're not going to know what's going on. And I actually won't have a way of helping you with that. So this is a personal narrative that is about weightlifting. And while he does not mention anything about literacy per se, it is very much like, this is the way I was, and now this is the way I am. It literally begins, I believe that the definition of definition is reinvention. To not be like your parents, to not be like your friends, to be yourself completely. And then he starts when he's a child and what he was like, and then what he becomes like as he grows up. So he becomes a different kind of person through doing what? So how about, let's see, who do I not know? Lainey Lorio. What was the main gist of this piece of writing that's a personal narrative?
I really didn't read it. I didn't remember to read it.
Okay, let us move on from Lainey Lorio, and let me ask, how about Tiffany?
I had a hard time understanding it. So,
What part?
like everything. Maybe, I don't know.
So you don't know what made the guy change from one kind of person to another?
No.
No. Sounds like you didn't really put a lot of effort into reading it, because it's pretty much straight up and clear. How about somebody who does know? Unmute yourself. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
So what was the question? I'm sorry. What was the question?
The question was, first, what is your name? Because I'm just not seeing it pop up.
It's Ebony.
Ebony. Okay, great. So Ebony, the question is, what is the piece of writing that I asked you to read about?
Oh, it was pretty much talking about transition for the guy. He was getting bullied and he was getting targeted because he was skinny and his appearances, and they didn't like him, and he was tired of it and he wanted to change. And so he got this advisor who would decide to just rock his world and tell him to go get weights, like 100-pound weights. And he gets the weights and they go through training, and he the advisor gave him like a rule. He said don't look in the mirror, and he was gonna punch him out of the blue every now and then. And when he was able to take the punch, he was strong enough to look in the mirror, and that he was like a whole new person, whatever. So after he went through that, he just kept doing it, and his self-confidence grew, and he just became.
All right, Ebony, A+, like you got the gist. He changed himself through with lifting weights. Okay, good job. All right, so now we're gonna talk a little bit about, which you're not gonna understand if you didn't read it. So we're gonna talk about theses. Yeah, it sounds funny when you say it plural. So the plural of a thesis is theses, and I'm not, there we go, present. So does everybody see a big screen that says theses? Yeah, all right. So what is one? Do you remember in high school that your high school teachers would talk about them and say you don't have one and you wouldn't know what they mean? Does that ring a bell? So this is the definition. A thesis is a noun. What it is, it's a thing. It's a short statement, usually one sentence, that summarizes the main point or claim of an essay, research paper, etc., and is developed, supported, and explained in the text by means of examples and evidence. Okay, so that's a very limiting definition. So my definition is a thesis is simply a main idea. It's usually one sentence, but it doesn't have to be. A thesis might be best expressed in 2 sentences or even 3. So you might have been taught you need a thesis statement that is 1 sentence. This is not true. You need to have a main idea, but there's this other thing, which is explicit and implicit theses. So explicit, the definition that everyone seems to know off the top of their head is that it is open in the depiction of nudity and sexuality. That's not the kind of explicit we're talking about. We're talking about the first definition, which is fully revealed or expressed without vagueness or ambiguity. So it's not an implication. There's no ambiguity. It is clear, leaving no question as to meaning or intent. That is an explicit thesis. Then there's explicit thesis. So that's explicit, then there's implicit. Implicit is capable of being understood from something else, though unexpressed. It's implied, an implied assumption. So if we talk about theses for personal narratives, all your papers need to have a thesis. However, theses can be implicit or explicit. What was it that your high school teachers probably told you to do? How about, yeah, somebody raised their hand. I wish I saw your names. I don't know why I don't see your names. What?
Alexis.
Mute yourself? Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
My teacher always taught me that my thesis should be personal and specific and make sure it relates to my entire essay and not just a specific paragraph.
That's true. And that's why they're hard, because it has to relate to your entire essay. And tell me your name since I don't see it.
Alexis.
Alexis. Okay, thank you, Alexis. Yeah, so that is, her teacher did not do her wrong. The thesis really needs to treat the entire essay. There should be nothing in the essay that's not about the thesis. So that's one of the reasons why they're difficult. What Alexis describe, is it more implicit or explicit?
Explicit.
Explicit, yes. So that's pretty normal because the implicit thesis is more subtle. So arguments can be explicit, implicit, or implied. Explicit arguments contain noticeable and definable thesis statements and lots of specific proofs. Implicit arguments, on the other hand, work by weaving together facts and narratives, logic and emotion, personal experience and statistics. Unlike explicit arguments, implicit ones do not have a one sentence thesis statement. Instead, authors of implicit arguments use evidence of many different kinds in effective and creative ways to build and convey their point of view to the audience. Research is essential for creative, effective arguments of both kinds. So everything you write in this class actually is an argument. I know a personal narrative, it doesn't sound much like an argument, but you're showing us your point of view, your thing, whatever you're writing about, and you have to convince us of this, and you have to convince us that there's some sort of transformation, some sort of difference in what you understood then to what you understood now. In very simple terms, the Henry Rollins essay that it seems like a lot of you didn't read, The difference is he couldn't defend himself. He starts lifting weights and he sort of finds himself, and it's very important to him, the lifting weights. Okay, so I'm gonna put you guys in what's called breakout groups. And I think that it will automatically do it. I just have to figure it out how to do it. So let me see if I can find the option, breakout rooms. Here we go. So you're gonna go into breakout rooms, and maybe I have to get out of the full screen. So hold on one sec. Okay, let's see if the little window pops up for the breakout rooms. Okay, so there's 14 participants, and there are going to be 4 breakout rooms, so it'll be 4 to 5 participants in a breakout room. So I'm going to create your breakout rooms. I'm not going to be in your breakout rooms, and I want you to answer these questions. So which kind of thesis does the personal narrative seem to lend itself to? So what kind of thesis is more normal for the personal narrative? Why? What about Iron and Soul? What kind of thesis is it? Explicit or implicit? Okay, so I'm going to create the breakout rooms. So let me make sure everybody is in one. Yep, perfect. So there's 1 with 5 and the rest are 4 people. So in your breakout room, you're answering these questions. And here we go. And by the way, guys, I can't hear you when you're in your room. So you can say whatever you want. Here we go. All right, it looks like almost everybody is back. So I'm just gonna start with, I don't know if you know this, but there was breakout room 1, 2, 3, and 4. So breakout room number 1 was Anya, Dayton, Ebony, and Naya. So who was your speaker in that group?
Me, I was.
Okay, and you are Naya, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, Naya, could you please tell us what you came up with respect to personal narratives, explicit, implicit, and the thesis of the piece of writing about weightlifting?
So we agreed that the personal narrative should be the explicit. We should use explicit while using our thesis. Since it's a personal piece, it should have some type of emotion and express ourselves in it. And in the Iron and Soul, we thought that he used explicit because he was expressing himself and using his emotions to write.
Okay, so we're going to get back to it. I definitely think that the personal narrative should use some emotion, and I definitely think that there is a lot of power in using emotion, especially if you're a freshman writer, because maybe you haven't had an experience that is something like living maybe in a different country, or maybe you, if you're 18 years old, knock on wood, you won't have any accidents, but maybe you've never been in an accident, or maybe it's hard to figure out like, what is this important life-changing thing? But all of us have a lot of strong emotions about things. So I want to really underline that important point about the personal narrative. Yes, emotions are good. Okay, let's hear what breakout room. So that was Lainey, Mia, Tiffany, and Zaire. Who was your speaker? That would be Zaire. Yes, you can talk.
So basically for the first question, we were talking about the personal narratives. We thought that it can go either way, depending on like what point of view you're like trying to get the reader to understand. And then for the Iron and Soul, for the reading, we thought that it was implicit because he didn't really like get straight to the point. He was kind of using like, he was kind of like weaving it together using his own like personal experiences and stuff like that, trying to get like the reader to like convey the message. So we thought it was implicit.
Okay, very good. I'm gonna just move on to breakout room 3 because we're already, it's 10:17, so we have 13 minutes left. And I did want to talk about your topic. So that would be breakout room number 3 is Bria, Bronson, Nellie, and Samantha. Who was your speaker? Bronson? Okay, what'd you think?
Okay, well, you see, what we agreed on was that for personal narrative, that the thesis that a personal narrative, that itself into is explicit because it shows emotions and feelings, and it shows your emotions and feelings about different stuff, and in the Iron and the Soul, it was explicit because it was about trying stuff out until it was because it showed your environment, and the Soul was explicit because it showed Yopper's feelings and emotions about trying something out until he finally got the hang of it.
Okay. All right. So again, you're sort of leaning toward the explicit from what I hear. We're going to talk about that in a sec. I just want to go to the last breakout room, which was Alexis, Brianna, and Jaden. Who was your speaker?
It was me.
Alexis, okay, what did you come up with?
Okay, we said implicit because just like someone else just said, I heard they said that he didn't get like straight to the point. He used more of like his personal feelings and stuff like that to let the reader feel where he's coming from, feel his emotions and stuff. And we said the personal narrative should be the same, implicit.
Yeah, right. I really like the way on the second person, Zaire, she phrased it like it could be. A personal narrative could be explicit, where you say a thesis statement, but it's sort of like feelings and emotion, which are a little bit more implicit to where we understand the point, the feelings, the environment that is making this narrative do whatever it's doing. So the answer was closest, I think, to what Zaire said and what the last person said, that both the narrative, the personal narrative, is generally more implicit. It could be explicit, but it's generally more implicit. And the iron and the soul, there is not an explicit thesis statement. There's no thesis statement. So that was published in Esquire. I know that we have belabored over the years, English teachers have told you, you must have an explicit thesis statement. Well, guess what? Professional writers don't always have an explicit thesis statement. I think that I finally wanted you to make a thesis statement, but since we're almost out of time, I'm going to ask you to do something else to just wrap up this class. So in the chat, please put your idea for your personal narrative, what you're thinking about, just type it in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to show you something in Moodle that I want you to read for Wednesday. And since today, you know, it's all kind of new to me, the trying to figure out participation on this weird platform called Zoom. So I'm going to figure out some way to hold people more accountable for having done the reading, because I do see that some people really did it and they understood it, and that's what I want you to be doing. And I love that you're honest when you don't, but I want you to be doing the reading, because it's not a ton of reading. And part of getting to be a better writer is understanding what good writing looks like. Okay, so as you're typing in the chat your ideas for the personal narrative, I'm going to assign another reading, and this is an example of a personal narrative. So I want you to read, this is a student's first draft. So this is not the final draft. This is their first draft. What they sent to me, it was from a few years ago. It's about Katrina. I bet a lot of you guys don't remember Katrina because you were just wee when that happened, but it really rocked the Gulf Coast area from Texas to Alabama. It affected a lot of people's lives, and obviously a lot in Louisiana. So I've had many examples of personal narratives. So example of a personal narrative, give it a grade. So when I say give it a grade, I want you to go here to documents and important stuff. And I want you to look at this is also in your syllabus. So it could be your syllabus, or it could be here, the grading interpretations. So based on these grading interpretations that are basically established by the Nichols State English Department, this is what an A is like, this is what a B is like, this is what a C is like, this is what a D, this is an F. Okay, so read that personal narrative and give it a grade. Okay, are there any questions for me today? Anything at all? I'll be reading the chat carefully, so you could also put it in there.
Ma'am,
Yes.
so for first draft that we have to turn in on the 24th, it's a rough draft, and the second one that we have to turn into Moodle as a PDF, it's the final one.
Correct. So the first draft, you get a grade that I put on there, but that grade is not calculated into the actual second draft grade. And I call it, I don't use, I mean, I say first draft, final draft, but really any piece of writing could be continually improved and messed with. So I tend to say first draft, second draft, third draft, because you're supposed to learn in this class that the drafting is the writing, the making the multiple drafts, the thinking about it, the writing about it beforehand. That is how you write a paper. You don't sit down and churn out 5 perfect paragraphs. It's just not what writing is once you're at the college level. Okay, so thank you for that question. Any other questions? Can I ask you guys something? It's a little bit better when I'm here in my office, isn't it?
So
Yeah. Why is that?
anyways, ma'am. So once we already did the final draft, once we already did draft, since we already did paper 1 and turn it in as a Word document, we have to do the same to the PDF. We have to do the same, but just turn it in as a PDF.
Well, first I'm going to
And
read your paper. I have to read it. So the first draft isn't due until the 24th, correct?
correct.
Did you already turn it in?
Yes, ma'am.
You
But
want
it's
me
like
to
a
give
rough
it
draft, right?
feedback now?
But it's kind of like a rough draft or whatever,
That's a
right?
rough draft, yep. But you might also change your mind, Bronson, because you might read this rough draft. That's right here, just to remind everybody. In the assignment, there's an example of a first draft. And so you might read that example and go, oh, I need to do something different. So it's fine that you've turned it in already, but I'm not going to probably read it until the due date. Any other questions? Unless you really want me to read it before. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I will see the Wednesday people on Wednesday, and I will see the Friday people on Friday. And so just be thinking about it, because I want to ask you that again. I didn't really get an answer. Why is it a little bit better when I'm in my office? I know that I'm better at my own computer than going to the computer that's in the room, so I kind of know what to do better over here. I'm also wearing a headset that might have helped you here. I'm not moving around. So just think about it, why with me in my office, it seems to work a little better. Okay. See you guys on Wednesday. Happy reading that draft. Bye-bye.
After we read the paper,
Who's
where do
talking?
me.
Oh, Brianna, yes.
After we read the paper, where do we put our grade that we give them?
Oh, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to put you in a breakout room. You're going to see what the other students say about it.
Okay, so
And
we
if you
just
agree.
just read it like tonight, and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about
just
it
read
next
it.
class.
Well, or you could read it tomorrow. As
Okay.
you should read it. You should, if you've started your personal narrative, you should be thinking about, well, this is what a professional piece of writing looks like, because let's be honest, the Iron and the Soul, it's like many pages, and it's a guy who knows what he's doing, and all professional writing that ends up in a magazine has also had an editor go over it. So this is the complete opposite that I'm showing you, because I'm trying to get you to let yourself actually write badly. It's fine. Write badly to get to a more polished version. And you'll see it's not a great draft, but we'll see what you guys give it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, Ebony. Nope. Okay. I can't figure out why. Oh, you're muted anyway, Ebony, but like everyone else said they could hear you and I couldn't. I'd have to, like, there was something wrong, but anyway, don't worry about it. Any other questions?
No, I was saying bye.
Bye. See you on Wednesday. See everybody on Wednesday. I'm going to end the meeting.